Hey, how's it going? This is my Highbanker. Putting it together by myself. What we have is a 50-inch sluice box, and I just slid that a little forward of the frame, and I put this hopper here. And essentially, what the hopper is it's just a real rugged plastic storage bin that I got at IKEA Superstore. And the back of it there, you'll see I cut a hole in there to accept a classifier slash grizzly. There's a crash mat there. I'll probably affix with some expanded metal and maybe a washer and a wing nut. And the front there is a hole to evacuate the water into the front of the sluice box. And I'll show you how this goes together. I've made it to be, the intentions were portability and to be lightweight. So there's very little hardware that goes into this, and it seems to be quite rugged. This weekend we'll figure out how it works. It's just a prototype, and I'll show you how everything goes together. So let me put this camera down. Alright, and this is the classifier. Essentially what it is I just had a bunch of leftover oak and I milled it up and countersunk everything with wood screws. Nothing's glued, so you can take it apart and replace the screen if you want. This is just 3/16 hardware cloth. Took some aluminum stock, cut it to size, put it in the front here to reinforce the box, and then some aluminum stock on the back of these braces for reinforcement. This simply just drops in here, and this back part pops out the ass end. And what I did was I drilled 2 holes in the top of the classifier, here and here, and then there's 2 in the hopper, there and there. And like I said, this is meant for portability and to be lightweight, so there's no hardware used to hold this in. You simply just use 2 zip ties. And if you want to run clay, leave these zip ties loose and this will sit flat. If you're running, stone and sand and, your average gravels, I just pull this up tight here because that's how I tested it, and everything seems to hang around for just a second and then wash right out. And I just did that with some water and some handfuls of different materials just to make sure I had the angle right prior to drilling any holes in the hopper. Because at $13 a piece, and this angle here, I don't want it too flat anyways, because I don't get into much clay. This will be just fine. And then here's my spray bar, and I made that to accommodate for that section of hose there, so you can spray out the hopper, or when you take your riffle tray out to clean out the box, just nice to have a little water there to spray in a bucket or hit your friend's dog with. I have the holes, they're set up so it's not spraying in the whole length of the box, it's only spraying in 2/3 of the box in the upper portion of the classifier grizzly. That way we don't lose too much water out the back end due to splashing. So this just rides right on top of the angle of the grizzly box that I built there, and just sits down in the center, and I'll show you how all that looks in just a second here once I get this secured down. And like I said, pretty easy. We're using zip ties and bungee cords, and that's the only thing that's keeping this down. That goes on the bottom of the sluice on the frame. This goes on the other side on the frame. That's on the front side. This goes on the back side. That goes like that. And, straighten this out, and I know I'm going to have to adjust the angle on the sluice box here to run a little bit steeper, but that's essentially it in a nutshell. That's my Highbanker on a budget, and that seems to be pretty rugged with the bungees, just like that. You can drop plenty of stuff in there and it shouldn't affect it too much. There is my spray bar sitting on top of the Grizzly inside of the plastic storage container that you can purchase at IKEA. And here's where all your larger materials going to evacuate out the back side. There's the metal bar that's protruding out the back there. On the box, there are your two zip ties that are simply just holding that Grizzly screen in place. And there's the front of it. You can, whatever pump you're going to use, I'm using a, pretty sure it's a 1-inch pump, high pressure 1-inch pump, 100cc engine. And I'm hoping to God that that's enough water to make this an efficient wash plant. If not, we'll look at something different. But right there we've got a pretty fair amount of surface area in the sluice to catch materials. And the wash plant is certainly large enough where you could stand here with a bucket and just spray a bucket out in a minute, 2 minutes, and grab your next bucket. So I'm hoping that this is going to be as efficient as one of those high-priced models. Feel free to feedback and let me know what you think. Constructive criticism is